If anybody has any suggestions on how to fix a cowlick so that the front part of like the part that comes over doesn't fall flat, because that is my biggest problem and I can't seem to figure it out. So if you have a solution for that, let me know. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. Today I'm going to be doing something a bit different. I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of a reading challenge. So if you're anything like me and you have a serious issue of just buying books because their covers are pretty or because something about them just looks intriguing, or you've heard one word spoken about them, don't know anything about them, but you just buy it anyways, then welcome to the club. I think we have a shopping problem. But all of this aside, because I have this issue, I feel like I've accumulated quite a few books on my bookshelves and just in my TBR in general, where I've just added them without knowing anything about them, and I have yet to read them. So today I'm going to be reading books that I know nothing about. And like I said, this is just an accumulation of books that I've just bought. There is a bug in this room. There is a spider. Okay, I'm gonna let her be until she comes close to me, because then we're gonna have an issue. What was I trying to say? Oh yeah, I'm trying to read books that I know nothing about. So I have selected 3 books here that are honestly kind of like all different, almost, I was gonna say primary colors, that's not even what they are. Red, orange, oh, well, almost 3 primary colors, actually, yeah, okay. Anyways, I figured that we could read the blurbs together and then you guys will come along with my journey on reading the actual books. So that spider is getting closer to me. So the first one I have is Simply the Best by Susan Elizabeth Phillips. First of all, it's just, I solely bought it because it just looks so cute. Like the cover is lime green. It has a cutie little girl on it. It looks like it's a cute little quaint town. And then also Kristen Hanna has a blurb on the back of it. She had a blurb on it, so I think I just bought it because of that and because of the cover. And her blurb says, Susan is the absolute queen of contemporary romance. So that's me finding out that this is a contemporary romance. Now let's read the blurb together. Oh my god, it's so cute. It's like pink and green. Okay. Honestly, I knew what I was doing when I bought this. Like, let's just keep it a buck. Okay, so Brett Rivers is the hottest sports agent in the business. Fast and furious, swift and deadly. Failure, not an option. Rory Garrett is, let's be honest, a disaster. She has a big heart, an empty bank account, a passion for making exquisite chocolate, and a huge inferiority complex from living in the shadow of Brett's most important client, her football legend brother. Brett and Rory should have never met, and they should absolutely positively never have had to deal with the consequences of one stupid drunken night, one disastrous lie, one career in jeopardy, one missing football player, and a very dead body. It's going to get messy and dangerous and heartbreaking and sexy. To Rory, Brett represents skewed values and a devious mind. To Brett, Rory is forbidden fruit, off limits, do not disturb, and no entry. Definitely no entry. A woman who has succeeded at nothing and a man who succeeded at everything confront the challenge of their lives as they struggle with themselves and each other. When it comes to love, what price are any of us willing to pay to simply be the best? Okay, that is not giving contemporary romance. Like, it's like a murder mystery slash, just by that blurb, the fact the blurb is like from a girl that has nothing or has contributed nothing or whatever, I feel like I'm gonna get pissed off. So I hope that I like the girl, because I love to like our girlies in our books. So I guess we'll see. I also think let's take off the dust jacket and see what the book looks like. Oh, very cute. It's like plain green and then it has the pink little foil. Okay, you can't see it, but it has pink little foil letters. Ooh, I dropped it. Next I have The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. Now this one I bought, I feel like it needs no explanation. Look at the cover, first of all. This edition has like, it's like shiny. Like it's like it has a sheen to it, like a sparkle to it. And then look at the edges. I don't know what significance this is. Like they kind of look like a thrishle, but I think it's supposed to be like fire. But whatever the significance is, this is just the prettiest thing ever. And you can see I didn't even take the sticker off. And it was also $5 off, which is why I bought it. Like, dude, when they make books this pretty, I'm just a sucker. I don't know what to say. Okay. Oh! Raised to obey, designed to rebel. The three kingdoms are at war, but Malin's father refuses to answer the imperial draft. Trapped by his opium addiction, he plans to sell Malin for her dowry, but when Malin discovers her husband-to-be is a violent, ill-tempered man, she realizes that nothing will change for her unless she takes matters into her own hands. The very next day, she disguises herself as a boy and enlists in her father's place. It's giving Mulan. In the army, Malin's relentless hard work brings her recognition, friendship, and a growing closeness with Sky, a prince-turned-training partner. But has she simply exchanged one prison for another? As her kingdom barrels towards destruction, Malin begins to have visions of a sea dragon spirit who offers her true power and freedom at a deadly price. With the future of the three kingdoms hanging in the balance, Malin will need to decide whom to trust. Sky, who inspires her loyalty and love, the sea dragon spirit, who has his own murky agenda, or an infuriating enemy prince who makes her question everything she once knew about her kingdom and her own heart. And then the last one I have is just, again, just so self-explanatory as to why I bought it. Like, it's just so pretty. This is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. The cover is so pretty. And then the back is also just, I love when they do like little quotes like this. And then this one happened to have sprayed edges as well. And this is Darling on it. I wonder if that's a nickname he calls her. Is there, oh! I haven't even opened this, that's how you know. Okay. It low-key looks like Iris and Roman. There's no description on this one, so I'll just read you the back. And it says, a little bit of faith, misplaced trust, missing pixie dust, and a villain just needed to steal a little love. Okay. These are going to be the 3 books that I read in this video. I hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned to see what I think of all of them, and I'll report back. So Garrett is like an agent for the NFL and his client is Clint. And so Garrett suggested that Clint's then girlfriend was only dating him for money. And so they broke up, proving that that girl wasn't in it for money. And now Clint is heartbroken and Garrett doesn't want to get fired as Clint's like agent or manager. And so they're at this party and then Garrett hooks up with this girl Rory during a Halloween party. And then he, for some reason, thinks she's a sex worker. So after they hook up, he like leaves money for her in the hotel room. And then it turns out that Rory is not a sex worker, but is Clint's sister. And so that's exactly where I got to in the book. And I will say I like so far that it's very fast paced. There's not a lot of like fluff in giving the backstory. So I have a feeling it's going to be more like current to bookend heavy rather than history heavy, which I particularly like. I think things that are fast paced are better. So okay, I just finished the first chapter and I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I like the fast pacedness and I think I liked the plot in the first 6 pages when I last gave my update, but now I feel like there's a lot going on because now you have Ashley, who is Rory's like friend, but Rory doesn't have many nice things to say about her. So I'm like confused if they're actually friends, and Ashley's the one that Clint used to date. But then Ashley's like already moved on, but then she's saying she manipulates Rory to take her dead mother's purse. Like there's like a lot going on here. So I'm wondering if it's supposed to be everything but the kitchen sink type vibes and then it'll slowly make sense. That's what I'm hoping or assuming. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I think I'm gonna try and read a bit more and then I'll come back. All of a sudden this is now turned into like a one-night stand situation, misunderstanding, into a murder case. And like, why would you even introduce her as a character for 1 chapter? if she's dead. Okay, let's keep going. Now, you probably wouldn't be able to tell if I hadn't changed my outfit, considering that I'm in the exact same position and I probably look worse than I did in the last clip, even though now I'm showered. But I've made really good progress on this book. I'm flying through it. I'm already on page 156. I feel like there is a lot going on in this book right now. There is this like potential romance, there's this potential murder mystery. You're getting random POVs from characters like out of nowhere. And you also have this like fractured familial relationship and then a commentary on work. So all of that has gone on in 156 pages, but I feel like I don't know how I feel about it. I feel right now that it's doing too much or trying too hard to do too much, but at the same time I am enjoying the plot and just seeing what happens. I feel like I'm just kind of going along for the ride right now. You know how in a lot of books they'll title a chapter or a section with the name of like whose character is speaking? She doesn't do that here. So I feel like when we switched into Kristen's POV randomly, the first time I was just like, what is going on? And like that side quest is like really random. I have a feeling I'm going to like the end of this book, but right now I feel like it's just kind of in the mid-range of being just okay. So that's my update right now. I'm gonna keep reading and then I'll come back to you when I have a different opinion. Okay, now I'm on chapter 18 and I have to say I feel like their romantic connection is not my favorite because I really like the quirky girl trope. I think that it's cute, and the serious guy, but I think they're so wishy-washy with their feelings. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I can't cross this line, and then they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna cross the line, and then as soon as they cross the line they're like, oh my god, I shouldn't have done that. Like, what is happening? Just make your mind, pick one and make up your mind, I feel like. And they're just like too back and forth for me, which I don't like. But I honestly breezed through this book. I'm on chapter 18, but I can probably finish this in the next like 30-40 minutes. So once I finish the whole book, I'll come back and give my like final updates. Yeah, see, like they just hooked up and then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I love him. How can you love him if you just kicked him out of your apartment? Like, it doesn't make sense. Please don't mind my appearance. Anyways, I finished Simply the Best by Susan Elizabeth Phillips last night, and I think I'm going to sit with like a 3 out of 5 on this one. It was entertaining enough to the point where like I wanted to know what was going on in the story, but other than that I just think there was too much going on with like the murder being like somebody so random and inconsequential to the book. It wasn't even like that shocking. I feel like the relationship between Rory and Clint was just so bizarre because she just kept saying how they weren't really close, and then she like defended him against this whole murder, and then at the end she's like, oh, I guess we were closer than we thought. Like, how do you say that you hate your brother and then say that you realize that you don't hate him and you never hated him? Like, that hatred had to come from somewhere. That didn't really make sense. I actually ended up really liking Kristen as a character, but even her relationship with Rory made zero sense to me, because how could they go from being such big nemesis where they hated each other growing up to Kristen automatically randomly one day coming up with like this guilt that she's feeling and then them suddenly becoming besties? Like, that made no sense. But I did like Kristen as a person and as a character. And then the relationship between like Brett and Rory, I was invested in the sense that I wanted to know what was going on with them. But even that, he just overnight decided that his job is not important, that he doesn't care, that he only cares about Rory. And then in one page he's like, we could keep this a secret, and then she gets offended, and then the next second she's like, oh, I don't want you to feel like my dirty little secret. Like, you just said that. You just said that you wanted her to be your secret, so that didn't make sense. But the rescue scene was cute, I guess, because he's the one that found her. But even that was like kind of crazy. And then it all of a sudden turned into also her almost killing somebody. And I was like, what is going on? So I feel like there was too much going on. And then after all of that, Brett ended up going back to that job that he said he's going to quit because of Rory, which, listen, like, if his boss came back, if he came back and was like, oh no, I acted too rashly, blah blah blah, that's one thing. But then he went back to that same job, worked like crazy, and now in the epilogue chapter, he just like, no, I don't want to let you go, like, blah blah blah. And since when is Brett the type to leave Rory to fight his battles, especially in the epilogue? Like, none of it really made sense to me. So yeah, it was entertaining enough. Like I said, I don't think it's so bad to give it a 2-star, because there were, like, I'll probably reread like some of the quotes in here, but other than that, I would say this just was pretty disjointed. It was giving everything but the kitchen sink vibes, but not in a good way. So that's the first book. I think next I'm gonna do Hooked by Emily McIntyre. Okay, so I started a little bit of Hooked now, and I'm on chapter 3, and I'm pretty convinced that this is just a Wattpad story. It looked so pretty that I thought that it would be more magically or fantasy-y, especially with this picture. Like, I thought that it would be more romantic-y, but then literally on the first page it says, this is a dark contemporary romance. It's an adult fractured fairy tale. It's not a fantasy or retelling. The main character is a villain, and there's like no redemption arc. So she tells you this in the author's note, and it literally says reader discretion is advised. Like, she tells you this before you get into the story. But what I'm deducing is it's about the villain, who's Hook, and then Wendy is the female protagonist, who is the daughter of Hook's rival, it looks like. And Hook is like an, you know, like in dark romance when there's the people in the mafia and they are the ones that say, you know, I don't apologize for killing people that are bad and whatever. I feel like that is Hook. I just feel like it's kind of like a mafia romance, but set in the romance world. But I think it's technically like a Peter Pan inspired thing. I know she says it's not a retelling, so I don't want to use those words, but I think it's a Peter Pan inspired story, because the guy is Hook, the girl is Wendy. The girl's dad's name is Peter Michael, and he owns an airline, and the airline is called Nev Air Land. I'm not sure if I'm going to really like this for its literary prose or world building like I had originally thought, but it might be nice and steamy and cute. And I don't know, this picture I feel like is so cute. If you guys ever watched Once Upon a Time, I loved Hook in that, but he was kind of like a good guy in that. But I think about him and Emma all the time. And I didn't know that this is like a Peter Pan inspired story, so I'm excited to keep reading. But yeah, I definitely think it's more of a Wattpad type romance. Even in the writing, the sentences are really short, so that's not to say I won't enjoy it, because I think I will, but I just don't think it's like what I originally thought, you know? Through. I also discovered just a bit ago that this has a little bookmark in it, which is cute. This is such a pretty book for the content in this. I was right. This is just Wattpad smut. And I don't hate it, but it's not the best Wattpad smut I've read, because I can get behind some Wattpad smut, you know? But this is just not that great. So you have James and Wendy. James is the main character, and then Wendy is the FMC. So basically James is the villain, he's the bad guy, he's like a businessman in Chicago, he's kind of like in the mob, like kind of in the mafia, kind of. Wendy is like this pure, innocent, you know, beacon of light, good girl. She moves to Chicago because of her dad, and her dad is basically this like wealthy multimillionaire, and it turns out that Wendy's dad is James, who is also Hook, by the way, James's like rival. So James is like on a quest to seduce Wendy to like take down Peter. I feel like we all know what's gonna happen here. Like, it's just, what we think is happening is what's happening, but this is kind of, I don't know if anybody's read A Touch of Darkness. I think that's the title, by Scarlett St. Clair or something like that. It's the Hades and Persephone one. It's almost exactly the same exact plot. Like, he owns a bar, and then she goes there and she's like super sheltered by her mom and whatever. This is basically, he owns a bar and she goes there and she's super sheltered by her dad. It's basically the exact same thing, and that's a Hades and Persephone retelling, and this is a Peter Pan and Hook inspired novel. Hello, I am back, and I've just finished Hook by Emily McIntyre. It took me like 20 minutes to read this entire thing, this 300-page book. My thoughts on this I don't think have changed since the last time I gave an update. Basically, this is just Wattpad in a really pretty package, I would say, but not in a good way, low-key, because I have read some mafia romance or dark romances where I am like rooting for the couple, but in this one it just didn't make sense. So much of the plot was just like nonsensical too. Sometimes it's really important to make sure that you don't judge a book by its cover, even for a positive reason. Anyways, like I said, the lighting's horrible, but I'm gonna start The Night Ends with Fire now, and I will keep you guys posted on how I like it. But I'm gonna take off the book sleeve, so sorry, and ooh, this is a nice like inner cover. Never Trust a Dragon. Ooh, I feel like you know it's gonna be lore heavy when you get a map at the beginning of the book. So I am now on chapter 6 of The Night Ends with Fire, and I would have to say overall I'm really liking this, with a couple of reservations, quote unquote, if you will. So basically this story follows Maylin, who is the daughter of this like retired aristocrat, kind of. I feel like it's more like he used to work for the government, and her mom died when she was little because, quote unquote, she went insane, and her dad remarried a way younger girl who's closer to Maylin's age, and he is now like, he has an opium problem. He's addicted to drugs. Maylin is trained in kung fu and like fighting arts, and she's more of a tomboy. Their family is now in debt because of his like drug issues, so he needs Maylin to get married so that they can use her dowry for like money, quote unquote, to run the family, but it's more so just for him to feed his addiction. And basically I'm on chapter 5, and I just got to the part where she decided to avoid getting married. She's going to go enlist in the army. So this is roughly a Mulan retelling. And I have to say that conceptually I really like the take of Mulan that this book takes. I feel like with retelling sometimes I feel like it's too on the head. With this one I like the aspects that were changed and developed. I think it makes it very interesting while keeping like the same core girl dressing as boy enlisting in the army type thing the same, but their motivations and their lives are very different, which I like so far. She's also out one night when she meets the general, or he's like the general's son or something like that in the army, who just happened to be like visiting her village, and he sees her like demonstrate her kung fu skills and is a bit enamored by her. He compliments her fighting skills. He seems to be like one of the only ones that like acknowledges that her strength and power, and not in a negative way. I have a feeling they're going to interact more like when she enlists, but basically with the help of her stepmom, I just got to the part where she put on all like the boys' clothes. She's like wrapped her chest. She's like done her hair and everything like that. And she's running away to the army. So conceptually, I really like that. And that's kind of where I'm at in the book. Okay, I need someone to tell me if these glasses are giving cute, you know, like hot nerd type vibes, or if I look like Edna Mode, because I feel like it's giving Edna Mode, but, and I was going to return them, but low key, sorry, I'm like trying to fix my hair, but low key, I feel like when I have makeup on, it kind of looks okay, because like, you know, but when I don't have makeup on, it's definitely giving like Edna Mode. Sometimes I feel like I get a little bit confused because the point of views like randomly change, and I think it's supposed to be like her spirit or whatever is like consuming her, I think is the point of like that whole thing, is that's what's happening. But I feel like it's unclear if that's what's actually happening or if I'm just assuming that that's what's happening, because here, like, I'm on chapter 20, and then she says, like, I stared down at my reflection stared back at me, her eyes, I realized with a jolt, her eyes are golden. Is she talking about her shadow self? Is this the dragon inside her brain? Is she talking about her? Because the water is like a reflection of you. So I feel like I'm just a little bit confused on that. I think she's talking about her shadow self. Hello gang, I have officially finished part 1. I'm on part 2, and I would say at this point I'm just confused as to what's going on. There's not much of an update, I feel like, since I last spoke to you guys in terms of the plot, which I think is one of my first qualms in this update, is that I feel like it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of the training, then it's the fighting, and then it's like, oh, somebody gets injured and then she gets whisked into the spirit realm. And I feel like that's already happened like 3 times, and I'm only on part 1 of this book, you know, so there's still quite a bit left, and I feel like that's already gotten repetitive. Hopefully now that we're on a completely different part of the story, the plot will be different, but that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, I think that there are too many characters, or it's kind of confusing what's going on. I feel like it's not well explained or segregated, I guess, because you have these like the spirits, the 4 spirits. It's like the dragon, the phoenix, the tortoise, and this some whatever the last one is, the mouse, maybe something like that. You have like the 4 spirits, but then they're inhabiting like real people, but then, and those people are called vessels, but then you have the jade necklaces, which are also the vessels. And I feel like it isn't being properly explained how the jade necklaces are important or why they're important, because I just got to the part where well, I just finished part 1, so basically her task with this dragon is to like recover the remaining pieces of the smashed to jade amulet so that the phoenix guy doesn't get it, and then harness it for this like power of ultimate destruction or whatever. But then the other thing I'm confused about is, like, in her dream or whatever, her mom came to her and said, don't trust the dragon. So is this dragon just showing her the future? Is this real? Is it supposed to be confusing? Like, are we supposed to just ignore the fact that we're not supposed to think that this dragon is trustworthy? And also, when the phoenix guy came to her in the dream, like the yellow-eyed guy or whatever, he was like, we don't normally gel, but we don't have to be enemies. So if we don't have to be enemies, like, why can't you just work together? And like, why isn't the, like, they didn't even talk about if this guy really does want to conquer the world. So I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on. And at this point, I feel like when I read the back of this, or when I read the blurb of this talked about a romance. We're in part 1, there's no romance to be seen, which is okay if that's the point of the book. But then they talk about, I feel like, a subplot of this romance, like in the blurbs, and there's no romance to be seen because Sky does not know Maylin is a girl. So I feel like at this point I'm just confused, but I'm excited to see where it goes. And I feel like she just had this revelation of like, no, I'm gonna harness my power. But she kind of was like that the whole time. I feel like there was never any question about whether she was going to actually use her power or not. She just didn't use it for like one of the 3 attacks that had already happened, you know? So I feel like that doesn't even make sense. So those are my thoughts right now. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, I hope you can hear me, and I hope that the fan in the background isn't too loud because I just finished part 2, and I think I'm just gonna try and binge the rest of the book, but I wanted to give my updates at this point. So I just finished part 2, like I mentioned. I'm on part 3, which seems to be like the shortest. I have a feeling I'm gonna finish this today. But I have to say, I really don't like Mei Lin. Like, I don't like the main character. I see kind of, I guess, where the romance picked up, but I don't know if it was supposed to be some sort of like love triangle nonsense, because like her and Sky have barely even like touched that, but she's suddenly loyal to him, but then suddenly not, and then she's like, oh, he only cares about his duty or whatever. Like, he didn't even come back for her. I feel like he's not good, so her loyalty to him just pisses me off. And then you have Lei, I think that's how you say, the prince, like the prince of this other kingdom, who's supposed to be like the bad guy that like actually is like not so bad and whatever, but he is bad. But then she, like, he clearly likes her, and he's like been nice-ish to her, and then she just like betrays him and then jumps out the window or whatever. I just like don't see the point of that. Like, she's so irritating, the main character. Like, it's kind of what I talked about before. I'm hesitant because I feel like the whole point is to be like, oh, just because you're arrogant and a woman doesn't mean, or just because you're ambitious and a woman doesn't mean that you're arrogant or whatever. But she is, like, she is just not nice. Like, she's not a nice girl, which is fine, but then I honestly don't think that she holds any allegiance to anybody. Like, I feel like the thoughts in the book or the writing circle, or like they teeter-totter between her being like, I don't care about anybody, I only want myself and my self-fulfilling goals, and I am selfish and this, that, and the third, and then she'll go to be like, oh, I have to betray Lei because like I care about my family and like everyone back home and whatever. So I like, all her motivations are just selfish, which I think is the point. Is like, I don't even think she's trying to save everyone for the sake of saving everyone and like not murdering people. I think she's saving everyone because she wants the glory, which is fine if she owns that, but then she goes back and forth. I feel like the writing goes back and forth between like her owning it and then her being like, I care about people. Like, no, you don't. Like, no, you do not. And then I feel like everything with the magic system is honestly a little confusing. Like, I am paying attention, I am locked in, and I'm trying to read this and figure out what's going on, but it is not computing in here. Like, it is not computing. And I don't know, like, if I'm just stupid and I'm not understanding like everything with the jade system, and then everyone's names and all these princes, and then the prince's brothers, and then you have these like beginnings of every chapter which are like, you know, a little blurb from the scripture, and then some of them really have nothing to do with anything. Like, I know in Fourth Wing they have like the blurb at the top or whatever, but it's supposed to give you like more information on the world, but I feel like there's not even good world building in this for me to like be invested or care about the world in the first place. So I'm intrigued to see like what's going to happen, because I want to know where the story goes, because that is very unique. Like, that is good and unique. But the character, like the FMC, I do not like her at all. Like, she is so unlikable in every way I can think of, so that's kind of frustrating. Okay, I have officially finished The Night Ends With Fire by KX Song. I finished this last night as expected, and I think I'm going to land on like a 3.25 for this. I think conceptually this was super interesting. I liked the concept. I liked that it was a Mulan retelling, which I personally haven't seen a lot of. I liked the take on the magic and the world building. I thought it was very, very interesting. I liked the plot as well for the most part. So those are all the positives, but I think for me, like, a bunch of the negatives include, I really, really, really did not like the main character. I find her really irritating, and I don't want to repeat myself and bore you guys, but for all the reasons that I previously stated, like, I stand by those. So I feel like I really didn't like the main character. So that was one thing. The second thing was, I feel like there was a lot of teeter-tottering or indecision or going back and forth with a lot of the book, like not just the love interest or whatever. Like, I hate a love triangle, but even that aside, like sometimes she'd be like, oh, I hate Sky because he's so duty bound, and then she'd be like, oh my god, like I've missed him, like I think about him all the time. Like, no you didn't, because you were all like loved up with Lay, but then you weren't loved up with Lay because you were using it to like get what you wanted. But then it turns out Lay is kind of like a good guy, which we all saw coming, especially because if you read the blurb, it's so obvious that like that's going to transpire. So, you know, I didn't like that. And then I was right. I feel like in one of my updates I talked about how the mom voice in her head was like, don't trust the dragon, and then she like blatantly trusted him anyways, but then it turns out like she was being manipulated by him in some capacity. But that's the other thing, was like that was really hard for me to understand. Like I really, while I thought the magic was interesting, I was confused for most of it. Like I did not understand what was going on, and like the magic and the significance of everything. All I got, or the main thing that I understood, was like just like the jade, and that your spirit sense or whatever is rooted in the jade. So if you don't have the jade, you can't channel your spirit sense. And then so that I was able to understand, and that's why they were like fighting with Seema to like get his jade, because he wants to like destroy the world because of his terrible backstory and everything like that. But then I feel like there was too much going on. There was that going on, then there was the fact that the dragon was manipulating her, then there was the fact that the spirit realm or whatever is breaking down so people can go in and out. That was a problem. Then you had all this stuff going on with all of Sky's like brothers, and the brother being practicing like the black magic, quote unquote, while their dad is like super against it. So you had that going on. Then you have this love triangle going on. Then you have Lay, who for some reason stole the jade from Seema. Well, you know why, because he's like, oh, I don't think power should be concentrated in one person or whatever. Fine, dandy. Like, why didn't you just say that? Like, why are you, like, if you trusted her the whole time, why did you allow her to get beat up? Why are you like so mysterious? Like, is it for the sake of being like brooding? Because I don't like that, you know, that doesn't make sense. So that didn't make any sense. And like that whole plot. Then you have like Lay's brother, who ends up being like the king and whatever, and like a terrible guy. So you have that family, you know, like history going on. And then like why she was hearing the dragon, and then she was hearing her mom, and then all of a sudden, like, what happened to the mom? Like she like heard her mom in her head twice, and then all of that was never mentioned again. That didn't make sense. And then like the fact that the dragon, like it was revealed that the dragon killed her mom or whatever. What happened with that? Like all of that was just never mentioned, never resolved, and I'm kind of annoyed. I feel like this should have been a standalone book, and I think it's a duology, because it says to be continued in the back. And then I looked up that the next book is coming out in August. I probably wouldn't read it except for the fact that I want to know what happens, so I will read it. And so I feel like that is promising enough for me to give it like a 3 or a 3.25. But I feel like there was a lot that was not talked about, not really properly wrapped up. Those are my thoughts on this. So in this video I read three books that I knew nothing about when I bought them, and I wanted to see as I read them what I would think about them, and really if you should judge a book by its cover. So the first book I read was Simply the Best by Susan Elizabeth Phillips. This one was okay, but a lot of it didn't make sense. And I think if you're going to read a romance, figure out if you're gonna like it first, because this is an expensive hardcover book, and I don't know if this one was worth it. Then I read Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This one I bought solely because it's so beautiful. Look at the edges. It has a bookmark attached. Only when I read it did I realize it's a like Captain Hook, Wendy type story. B, this is just Wattpad in a really pretty font. So because of that, I feel like there wasn't a lot of substance in this book. It was very smutty, and the plot was mid at best. You guys saw my reaction. But again, I feel like this doesn't make sense buying it. This does not look like Wattpad to me. This book does not look good. Anyways, so, and this is $32. Like, what was I thinking? I don't know, but yeah. This one also I would say is a miss. And then I finished off with The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. This one is also really pretty. This one I would say was the best book of the 3 that I read, but you guys also have my opinions on this one as well. And I think moral of the story is I need to stop buying books that I know nothing about, because I just buy them and now I'm gonna own 2 books that I really didn't like, and then 1 book that I thought was like okay. This one I'll probably keep because it was interesting enough and I want to read the next one. These 2 though, like I didn't even like these, so you know, what was the point? Just waste of money. So that is my conclusion on reading 3 books that I know nothing about. This was really fun for me because I really went into all of these super blind and not knowing what to expect, and with that I really liked doing this and figuring out, A, making my way through my physical TBR, and B, figuring out and guessing what I was going to like versus what I didn't. So let me know what you guys think about this, and if you have any other books to recommend and any other challenge ideas and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching so much, and I will see you guys in my next one.